Joining me now is Texas Congressman Troy Nehls, a member of the House Judiciary, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee. He's also a former Texas sheriff. Congressman, thanks for being here. I know you were part of yesterday's hearing. What was your takeaway and your reaction to what you heard?
Proud of what? A dismal record of putting the American people last. She wasn't there to really answer any of our questions. I had an opportunity to speak with her and ask her about this violent gang. We all know about Trendiagua, the violent gang out of Venezuela that has entered our southern border, many of them through this parole system. This administration has allowed over 500,000 individuals enter our country through parole, and many of these individuals are committing serious violent offenses against the American people, obviously with many individuals, American citizens, being killed by these bad individuals. So none of it surprised me, quite honestly, but if she says she's proud, shame on her. The American people, we did it. We fired you. You're gone, and now we're bringing President Trump to save this country.
Yeah, I mean, but can it be saved in 4 years? I mean, think about how many people have come into this country illegally, breaching the border and causing havoc. I mean, you know, we were just talking about Lake and Riley murder, and there are others. But there's also just this fear in the air, people walking around not really understanding or knowing details of this Trendiagua gang. So, I mean, how is this going to be done, practically speaking? Are you envisioning military rounding up people to send them back to their countries?
No, I believe it is going to be a very difficult task, but I think President Trump bringing Tom Homan back in as the border czar and having Kristi Noem as Homeland Security, I think they're going to focus this on day one, January 20th, and the messaging has already begun. Tom Homan has made it very, very clear with governors and mayors in some of these sanctuary cities, these very liberal mayors, that, hey, we're coming in and we're going to get the bad hombres out of our country. I mean, there's over 500,000 individuals in our country, these migrants that have felony convictions or felony charges. Let's focus on them first. Let's focus on them. Is it going to require the military? I don't believe so. What it's going to require is our federal agencies to work with our state agencies and our local counties, our sheriffs and others, to identify these individuals and get them on a plane and get them back to where they came from.
Hey,
that's what's going to happen.
Should we trust the president of Mexico when she says, yeah, I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on getting tougher because she's trying to avoid a tariff? I mean, I thought the drug cartels were basically running Mexico. Or is she running Mexico? Who's in charge here?
Well, I don't know who's in charge down in Mexico, but I believe that President Trump, when he come up with this 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, that's one hell of an incentive, isn't it? Because if you look at Mexico and Canada, they're number 2 and number 3 trading partner with the United States, and China's still number 1. So there is an incentive there for Canada and Mexico to clean up their act and help protect the United States of America. So I don't really like her too much, but I believe that President Trump is going to has made it very, very clear that Mexico, do your job and help keep the American people safe.
When you say you don't like her, why?
Well, I just think that she hasn't worked. I don't think she's really willing right now to secure the southern border. If she was, she would go back and revert back to Trump's policies. But what have we seen in the past 4 years? She hasn't been there very long, but what has she really done to work with the United States of America to help secure the southern border? Yeah. She hasn't done it yet. She hasn't done it
Jonathan
yet.
Fahey is with me this morning. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm glad he brought up the sanctuary cities, and I hope you do everything you can in Congress to prevent any funding whatsoever to go into sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. But I want to ask you something else you touch on, the gang Trendiagua, which is a Venezuelan gang. Right now, Venezuela will not take anyone back. So if we seek to deport them, they won't take them back. So what can Congress do to put pressure on Venezuela, and what can the administration do? Because this gang needs to be rounded up and get out of here, but we need them to take them back.
You know, that should be a concern for every American to think that Venezuela won't take their citizens back. Yeah. It's because Donald Trump was right back when he was running. He said they're not going to send us their best and their brightest. They're going to send us their criminals, their rapists, and all their gang members. That's right. And they've infiltrated themselves through these large caravans, and they don't want them back. Well, that's not going to work. And if they don't take them back, we shouldn't be giving a nickel to Venezuela. We should strangle their economy. That's what we could do. Yeah. We could use sanctions against Venezuela and obviously strangle that country. They got to take these people back. We don't want them here.
Yeah, no,
we don't want them here.
I mean, back in 2016, President Trump was mocked because he said that they were emptying their prisons in Venezuela and sending everybody here. It's exactly what they did. He was right, and he was mocked. But I want to get your take on this. Democrat Congresswoman Judy Chu leading an effort urging President Biden to close one of California's largest ICE detention centers. She says that the conditions inside the Adelanto facility are horrendous, comparing it to a prison. She also claims that only 3 immigrants are currently being detained there. 3. Meanwhile, migrant crime is surging in the country. A Guatemalan illegal immigrant charged and arrested by ICE in Boston just this week for sexually assaulting a child in Rhode Island. ICE says the suspect was released from local custody after their detainer request to hold him was ignored by the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. And a man suspected of trafficking weapons for dangerous Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua has now been charged with murder and aggravated kidnapping. That's in Texas, Congressman. So, I mean, what are the stories we don't know about what's taking place here? Your reaction?
Well, when I was a sheriff of Fort Bend County, a large county in Texas, obviously I complied with each and every ICE detainer. When an individual is brought into a county sheriff and arrested for some sort of crime, we run that individual, every individual that enters the county jail, through the system to determine whether ICE would like a detainer placed on them. I complied with everyone like most Texas sheriffs did. However, you'll get 1 or 2 liberal sheriffs that will not comply with them. So Texas, back in 2017, we made a law in the state of Texas that said if a sheriff does not comply with an ICE detainer, you could be removed from office. I would highly recommend the state legislatures across the country implement that type of a state law to prevent these liberal sheriffs from releasing dangerous individuals into our country. They're releasing them out of their county jail. So I think something could be done, and maybe we could try to think about legislation in some of these states, because something needs to be done. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't release individuals into our cities and then they commit further crimes. It's nuts. It's absolutely crazy.
Would you support holding back federal money to sanctuary cities because they're not releasing the illegals? Real quick, because I got
without a doubt, they wouldn't get a nickel. Look, they wouldn't get a nickel.
Congressman,
they wouldn't get a nickel.
What about this? President Biden reportedly considering issuing preemptive pardons, for Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, because the White House claims that Trump could go after his critics. I mean, I said this earlier. I think this is all smoke and mirrors because Biden knows he's about to pardon his brother Jim for the charges that the Oversight Committee has stated many, many times, which are influence peddling and money laundering. So, now we get this whole stack of people that the White House claims Trump is going to go after. Your reaction for these preemptive pardons?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see these preemptive pardons taking place because this administration has they believe that Donald Trump is going to go out and after these individuals, that we're going to be aggressive, we're going to go out and target these individuals, but I don't think that's necessarily the case here. I believe that there are individuals.
Why pardon Adam Schiff? Why pardon Liz Cheney? For what?
There are individuals that need to be held accountable for what they've done while working in the federal government under the DOJ that have violated the rights of many citizens, American citizens, and President Trump.
You're talking about Jim Comey. You're talking about Jim Comey. You're talking about Andrew McCabe. But I'm talking about Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff.
Well, number one, that sham committee, I think they abused their power with all this. Yes, they abused their power. So. Listen, it's a new day. Donald Trump's back, baby, and he's going to make America great again.
All right. Yes, the January 6th committee. That's a very good point, Congressman. Thanks for making it. Good to see you, sir.